You guys ever have one of those things where you have like instant buyer's remorse on a book that you decided to read? Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update as we are just continuing to roll on through February. We're going to talk about the week that was and, of course, the week that will be. So let's do as we always do, guys. Let's kick it off with what am I reading? I finished reading Book 2 of Farseer. This is A Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. And again, I cannot say enough about these illustrated editions. If you have the option to get them, I don't know if they're just in the States or not, but they are absolutely beautiful and they're so well put together. I mean, it's so rare that you see something like this. They're so perfectly put together and bound, and it's not one of those things where you're afraid of like oiling up the book or something. My wife said, "Don't oil up your book." I'm like, "Well, I wash my hands, so I don't know." Anyway, I really enjoyed reading out of this. I had someone actually kind of pick on me because I took this to work instead of my Kindle, and then I finished it, and then I didn't have another book to start. And they were like, "I thought you always took your Kindle with you everywhere." Usually, yeah, but when I'm reading out about one of these suckers. I want to make sure that I'm reading out of the illustrated edition because it was so beautiful. I also finished The Last Command. That is the last of the Thrawn trilogy from Star Wars. It was something that I wanted to finish a reread that I had began like a year and a half ago. And I'm trying. I said in that criticism video that I was going to try to stop bashing Disney Star Wars so much, but it's hard for me not to look at that as the actual sequel trilogy because it's just so good, and it's one of those things. It's aged incredibly well too. So I felt like with the Thrawn trilogy, it was like Heir to the Empire. You still felt like Timothy Zahn was doing a bunch of wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, remember this funny part that you liked in the original trilogy? With books 2 and 3. I felt like he kind of branched out and did like his own thing. So it's one of those things where like Heir to the Empire was great. Don't get me wrong, but I think Last Command might have been the best of the series, and just such a satisfying conclusion, such great villains in that. And if you guys haven't read the Thrawn trilogy yet, man, I cannot stress enough, you need to do it, especially if you're hungry for some real good Star Wars content. All you need to have seen is the original Star Wars trilogy of movies to understand what's going on in that series. Very, very good time. Highest recommends. As far as Farseer, I've had some people ask me, are you going to do a review for Royal Assassin? I mean, if you guys really, really want it, let me know. Here's the deal. I said I don't like to do non-spoiler reviews when I'm going through a series because I feel like you're going to start saying a lot of the same things. I can do this in a way where I can talk about different stuff. But again, that's if you guys want. I'm not doing like full spoiler reviews or anything like that. I might do a spoiler talk for the trilogy when I'm done. But right now, all I'll say is Regal is a dick. And that's about it. Let's move on to what am I going to read. I kind of joked about it. But, hey, you kind of say like you're joking about something, but you're very serious about something. Started reading this when I got home. And, it's really weird because on the way home, I was like, you know what? I am kind of low-key excited to get back into the Demon Cycle. It's been a while. It's been like over a year since I finished book 3. This could be fun. 75 pages in, I'm like, why did I not stick to my initial thoughts about this series? Imagine you have reading a Wheel of Time book. And out of nowhere, Robert Jordan said, you know what? Forget about all those Two Rivers characters. And forget about those Aiel characters you've already met. I'm going to talk about the third and fourth cousins of those Wheel of Time characters for the first 100 pages of this book. What do you guys think about that? It doesn't seem like it's slowing down at all. That's the Skull Throne so far. So it's one of those things where I'm like, look, it's really not that far into it. So it's hard for me to be like, you know what? That's going to be a quick DNF, but if it doesn't pick up soon, I might just go ahead and move on to the next thing, which the next thing is going to be Winter Tide. This is book number 5 of Reria Revelations. I don't want to say books 5 and 6 of that. That's all I have left in that because, book 5 is relatively short and book 6 is kind of meaty. It's a really big volume, that last omnibus volume. But so I'll say Winter Tide and kind of see how I'm going from there. Because I am starting Malazan book number 2 here pretty soon. That's Deadhouse Gates. But I don't want to start too early. I want to kind of save it for that last week of February. So if I can kind of muscle through the Skull Throne here, maybe then I'll do that one. If I end up DNFing that, Skull Throne, which is highly likely at this point. I think I will do Wintertide and then maybe fill it in with a quick hitter. And a quick hitter that I have in mind is The Girl Who Played with Fire. This is book 2 of Stieg Larsson's Millennium Trilogy, also known as The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. That was the book 1, but the whole series has become known as that for a while now. I really enjoyed that first book. I don't know why I never really went back to it. It was just kind of a numbers thing, and I had gotten wrapped up in schedules and things like that, so I just kind of never got back to it. But I'd like to, because I very much liked that first book. And reading Crichton and King, getting some standalones in there, I thought, you know what, it wouldn't hurt to have, even though I know it is book 2 of 3, but it's still, each one kind of feels like its own adventure, according to my wife. It has like little links. This is something she's been pushing me to read for a long time. And I really like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I think Elizabeth is just awesome, an awesome character. So I wouldn't mind revisiting that. So if you guys have any thoughts on that, hey, drop in there and let me know. As far as Shadow and Bone, I'm going to have a lot of time left on my hands for me to go ahead and jump into that. Even though, like I said, I know it'll probably only take me like 2 days to read something like that. But again, it's one of those things that we'll see. We'll see, guys. Again, all comes down to Malazan, so I want to start like when the February rolls around to the 20s. I'd like to be starting on Deadhouse Gates here to give myself lots of time and space to finish that. But let's go ahead and move on to this week on the channel. Kind of a busy week with real life. I had planned on doing a Song of Ice and Fire video this week, but I just kind of ran out of time. Cub Scouts can be very, very demanding. I don't know if you guys have kids. You have kids in Cub Scouts. It's not free babysitting. It's a second job for the parents. It really, really is. So it's one of those things that, it's something I want the kids to do, obviously, and it's something that I think will help them build character, build friendships, thing like that, especially right now when they have kids so isolated, not allowed to do anything with each other. Anything that's going to teach them how to work as a team and stuff like that as much as possible right now. I want to make sure that they're getting those values and stuff. So it's something that's important. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, yeah, that kind of cut into my real time this week. But what I did a book haul for January of 2021. I know I said January 2020 in that video several times. Usually by now, I finally adjusted to saying the new year, but for some reason, I can't get to 2021. It's hard for me to get there for whatever reason. I think it's just because 2020 was just such a whopper of a year that just kind of stuck in everybody's brain just to say 2020. God dang 2020, right? But the book haul videos always go over well. I always love to give shout outs to the people who were nice enough to send me things. You guys do rock, and I will continue to say that as long as I can, because without you guys, I don't know how much I'd be doing this, but I'm glad that you guys feel the desire to send me something. That's really, really awesome of you, and obviously something I never expect. So thank you again. I did a couple of reviews for the other half of the week. Started the great Michael Crichton reread, and we kicked that off with the Andromeda strain. Now, look, I know that Crichton and King stuff isn't going to get the same amount of views as like a fantasy series. I mean, that's just booktube. It's fantasy heavy. I get that. I got this with all my horror stuff in October. These are things that with me, lower engagement on it's fine as long as I've got people participating in it. And there are a lot of people on the Discord server that are participating in the Crichton read-along. So I no problems doing that video. It's one of the better intros I've done, in my opinion. I liked it quite a bit, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. And then I continued into the multiverse, episode number 16. Can you believe it? This was Dark Tower 2, The Drawing of the Three, a book that has aged just spectacular, in my opinion. In my memory, that was my favorite book of the series. So far, 2 in the reread, it's still leaning that way. But I'm anxious to see what the Wastelands and Wizard and Glass are going to be like reading it at this age instead of the ripe young age of 19. Yes, 19, King fans. It's a big deal, right? Let's talk about a little next week plans. I am going to do that Song of Ice and Fire video this week. I already made up my list, my favorite characters. I already made it up, and I'm just going to turn it on and talk about it and see what happens. That's kind of how these things take. So it's more of a matter of it was just I didn't have time to record it, edit it, and all that stuff. It's not really anything that I had to plan out or anything like that. This is one of those turn the camera on and just talk, because I've never talked about A Song of Ice and Fire on this channel outside of when I used to have that podcast. Me and a friend were doing our each episode review after we watched the final season of Game of Thrones, which is funny in hindsight. But and then I just did like a quick little hitter of the current state and how I thought HBO had kind of poisoned the IP and they needed to kind of take a break. And it was also me coming to terms with the fact that I was never going to see the ending of this series on the page. But I feel like now that enough people have stopped being nasty about Game of Thrones and about A Song of Ice and Fire, for the most part, for a while there, you couldn't even talk about the book without it turning into, hey, season 8 sucked. I want to talk about the books. So I feel like we got to a point where we can talk about the books again. So I'm going to do that video. Then I'm going to be doing a review for Kings of Paradise by Mr. Richard Nell. It's something I read just after Christmas. I wanted to get to it by now. It just kind of fell through the cracks. But I definitely want to give a independent author a shout out and some run on this page because he was nice enough to send a copy of that book to me. And it was just a bonus. The book was very good. So I definitely want to talk about it. I've had a lot of people ask me what I think about the book. So I'm going to give you some detail there. Quick little teaser. It's grimdark as hell, guys. And I think if you're into grimdark, you're going to find something that you like there. But I look forward to talking about that one. Then there's something a little special planned. This is something that I kind of joked about a long time ago when I was talking about some of my favorite classic books. Is I'm going to talk about some books that made me cry. Yes, I'm not Mr. Macho Man. There are books that have pulled some tears out of me. Hell, there's some books that have made me flat out ugly cry. And I'm going to talk about some of the bigger hitters there. And, so if you're one of those macho guys who're like, nothing could make me cry, hey, that might not be the video for you. For me, it's just sometimes something can hit you right in the feels at just the right time or just the right way, and it really, really sticks with you. It's not just going to be a specific number or anything like that. I'm going to kind of spread it around. It's not just going to be 10 Stephen King books or anything like that, but Stephen King will make the list. I'll go ahead and tell you that. But it's not like a set number. It's just I haven't even thought about it yet, what books all I'm going to put on there. Like, I know if you were making me pick a number one right now, I could tell you what it is, but you have to watch that video to find out. I think it'll be fun to talk about with a lot of comments about, oh, you big pussy or something like that. But you know what? Hey, that's the internet, right? That's about all I got for books this week. Let's go ahead and move along, guys, to some TV and movie talk. There are a couple of things here. Did you know that Stephen King's Firestarter movie, it's still happening? It's a remake being done by Blumhouse. I knew that Blumhouse had the rights, and they've been talking about it for a couple of years now. I think Zac Efron was attached, and I was like, that's an interesting pick, but okay. Really, who's cast as Charlie is going to be the biggest deal. And the second biggest deal is going to be who was cast as Rainbird. Well, there was a casting announcement for Rainbird here. This is an actor called Michael Gray Eyes. I don't know if he's Cherokee or not. Again, that doesn't make a huge difference, but Rainbird in the book was a Cherokee, and then in the original movie, it was cast by George C. Scott. And that was like, look, he played the role fine, but it was kind of hard for me to get around that. So I'm glad that they're kind of paying attention to that this time. Look, I'm starting to get really, really negative about Stephen King adaptations again. I think that It 2017 really made me believe, look, see, if you guys follow source material, Stephen King movies can be really, really good. And then they followed it up with that horrible Pet Sematary remake. And look, I haven't watched The Stand, but I'm not going to lie, I haven't heard very many good things about it at all, especially from people who've read it. So I feel like the third King Renaissance is starting to flicker and fade out a little bit. So I'll wait and see how this goes. But I like more Blumhouse movies than I dislike. They're nothing classic, but I always feel like they're a good popcorn flick. I think Firestarter could be really, really good if they don't try their damnedest to be Stranger Things, I felt like that was the problem with it. It was like, guys, Stranger Things was trying to be it. Why do I have it trying to be Stranger Things? Why are we doing it this way? So I'm thinking with Stranger Things took enough stuff from Firestarter that it's going to be hard to kind of avoid that. I know first thing that they'll do is they'll modernize it, and that always brings it down for me. But it could be really good if they do it right. It has to be better than that Carrie remake, I hope. But that original movie was just okay to me. Drew Barrymore was really good and stuff like that, but it's nothing that I was like, yeah, I've got to watch that again. But yeah, I think it could be good for an update if they are actually faithful to the source material, which they never are with Stephen King. What else? Pedro Pascal. I'm starting to get kind of overexposure to this guy. I'm not going to lie. He's starting to be everywhere. He was cast as Joel for HBO's adaptation of The Last of Us. That is a very, very popular PlayStation game if you haven't actually played it, by Naughty Dog. I love the first game. I didn't even play the second one. I won't get into that, but all you have to do is a tiny bit of research and you can find out why. But here's the thing: is what I liked about The Last of Us is I realized, this is a lot like Cormac McCarthy's The Road, and so I was like, I don't know if I want to see this adapted because I'm just going to be seeing The Road. I'm going to be like, hey, this should have been Vigo, But I don't know. I'd like to say it could be good. I don't really know. I don't think HBO's infallible as everybody else seems to these days. But I do know that they, after Game of Thrones, they probably need a new hit because they can sit there and tell you all these shows that they have are big mega hits or whatever. But like if nobody's watching them, are they really? You can win all the Emmys in the world, but if nobody's watching your show, I want to talk about something here that was surprising to me. I tell you every week just about that. I watched a movie with my kid, and because I like to get his reaction. Last week I told you we were watching a bunch of 80s movies. I just thought, you know what? I wonder if Jim Carrey movies, back when he was a comedic actor, before he decided to he wanted an Oscar or something, whatever that was that he went through. I said, I wonder how those have aged because, I grew up on In Living Color, so I knew Jim Carrey. And so that's why when his movies got really big with Ace Ventura and things like that, I was all about it. I already loved it. Remember Fire Marshal Bill? I loved it. Fire Marshal Bill was great. But that was a terrible Fire Marshal Bill. That's why I'm not an actor. That's why only Jim Carrey can do that. But anyway, I decided to show him Liar, Liar. I thought that'd be a good one to show him. And look, he laughed the whole time. And I'll be damned if it is not aged incredibly well. I thought for sure, Jim Carrey making a bunch of faces and doing a bunch of voices is probably going to seem so corny 90s cheeseball. I was actually like in tears laughing a couple of times. I was dead. So it's actually incredibly well aged, and I think I'm going to show him Dumb and Dumber next. I think he might really like it because, he was just in stitches laughing at that movie. And it's one of those things that's just kind of rather surprising. A lot of these things you go back to and you revisit them and they're not as good as you remember. Liar, Liar still holds up really, really well. Very, very funny movie. Last one here is for Valentine's Day each year. This is why I love my wife here. Is she says, when we were first dated, she says, let's not go out on Valentine's Day because it's going to be just a madhouse out there. So first off, I'm like, oh, great. What do you want to do? So we made this tradition of we will cook a nice dinner. Each year, one of us will take turns picking the dinner and cooking it. You get to cook and pick the dinner. And the other person will pick a classic romance movie. What I mean by classic is it has to be 1960 or before. That's always been like our stipulation. We did Gone with the Wind, we did Casablanca, we did all kinds of classic love stories. And we started to get to the point where we felt like we had kind of gotten all the big ones. So we had to start digging a little deeper there. And then it's my turn to pick the movie this year. And I said, you know what? Damn it, I've never seen An Affair to Remember. I think that could be a good one, right? I hope. Because look, one year I picked Dr. Zhivago, and I'm like, wow, this is supposed to be a romance movie, and it's all about him and his mistress. And now I picked a movie about having an affair. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I love to watch classic movies, classic romance movies. I think that they're always real special. And I hope that this can be one that is good as its legacy has. Because there's been other ones, From Here to Eternity, that I've watched and been like, I didn't get nothing out of that. So what was that other Clark Gable movie we watched? It Happened One Night. We love that one quite a bit. So we actually have like a ranking because we've been together, 14 years now? And we actually have like a ranking of these movies. And I'd like to see this one maybe crack into the top 5 or something like that. That's my expectations and hopes and dreams going forward. One last thing, guys, some gaming talk, more stuff with my kid here. I've told you before I love to make them play classic Nintendo games. The original NES, 8-bit Nintendo, because the games were so hard, right? Oh man, we got Mega Man The Legacy Collection for the Switch, which is Mega Man's 1 through 8. And he's been playing Mega Man 3, and yeah, it's bringing back some memories of let's just say some colorful language that I learned during that time in my life. Like he yelled out "bastard" the other day, and I didn't even get mad. I understood. I played that game before. I get it, but it's still not fair that they can like save anywhere and things like that. And it has like this little feature where if you say you fall down a pit in Mega Man, you can hold down the shoulder and it'll rewind it. So you can rewind like 10 seconds. It's like Omega 13 from Galaxy Quest or something, where you can, go back in time 13 seconds. But it's always fun to me to see them playing that. But Mega Man, what a great series, right? Just a side-scroller shooter that has just aged phenomenally well. And I know I didn't have that on my video game thing, but that's one of the classic series. I mean, they're still making new Mega Man games. I think they're on like X15 or something like that now. I don't know. I really don't know. I stopped following around like X9. I don't even know, but anyway, Mega Man: The Legacy Collection, good for some good nostalgia and good to if you got younger players in the house to watch them be like, how did you guys ever beat this game? It's the only game we got. We either played it or we didn't play games at all. So guys, what have you been up to this week? Drop in the comments and let me know what you're reading, what you're listening to, what you're playing, what you're watching. There are no wrong answers, and have yourselves a great and safe weekend.